Compounding your leads. I wanted to talk to you today about how one investor can actually seriously expand the number of investors that you work with. And that isn't achieved through tons of networking and telling lies because you haven't done what you're claiming to have done, or nagging people, or cold calling, or cold outreaching. It's about something that actually takes longer, and there is no way of getting around that. It does take longer, it's slower, it's quieter, but it is so much more effective than anything else that you will use if you want a long-term, professional, and ethical deal packaging or sourcing business. So if we're not going to hustle, and we're not going to cold outreach, and we're not going to go to every networking event and make false claims about our experience, about what we've done, about what we can do, about anything else, how do we achieve this? So let's have a think about you, where you are now, and where I was right at the very beginning, which was January 2012. How many really good quality leads have you had since you've been operating your business? Think about it. How many real quality leads have you had since you started your sourcing business? I mean, if you haven't started it yet, then you won't have had any. You know, what I can tell you is that from operating all of those years, over 13 years, even at the very beginning, I had to say thanks, but no thanks an awful lot before I said, yes, let's have another conversation. Because I knew from talking with some people that it was just never going to work. They weren't on my wavelength. They wanted something that I knew I couldn't find, or they wanted something that I wasn't prepared to do to the sellers, i.e. like 50% BMV or whatever it is. So I had to say no many more times before I actually said yes. Now, how did I get my first real quality investor on board? It was actually attending a training event down in London with our original mentor who was running it. And because we were crewing for that mentor, investors in the room believed that we had a higher level of trust, if that makes any sense. And so when we were having conversations, that trust level it wasn't completely there, but it was partly there. So we had a conversation with an investor that was being trained by our mentor to invest in property and build a portfolio, but was investing in our area in the Northwest and didn't live there. And so from conversations with us, which took probably 2 or 3 months worth of conversations, it wasn't an overnight success. They decided that we could source a number one property for them, and then we would see how it went, which was what we did. And their overall goal was to get 8 properties within 2 years, so about 4 properties a year. We actually achieved the 8 properties for them within 18 months. Unlike anything else, you get the first property, it's the hardest one to get over the line because they want certain things. You're not sure how they work. They're not sure how you work, especially in the beginning when you're really not sure how you work. You're learning as much as they are. That first property can be the hardest thing to get over the line. But when you have the conversations and you work together and you link together and you form a team, because you're a very, very important part of that investor's team for building that portfolio. How many investors do you know that just want one property? None that I can think of. They have an investment plan. So did our first investor. And what happened was that first one, we got over the line, but it took us, I think it was 3 months to get that first deal over the line. There were a lot of complications, believe me. If anything could go wrong on that very first deal that we did with our very first investor, it went wrong. But then after that, we knew exactly what they were looking at. We knew the areas anyway. And at that point, because we'd worked with an estate agent and they knew that the investor was building a portfolio because we told them, They came to us before properties went out to the open market. And we ended up where agents were bringing 2 and 3 and 4 properties to us, and we were viewing them all. And at one point, our investor was purchasing 3 properties at the same time because we had built up that relationship. But we'd done it slowly, we'd done it quietly, and we'd done it properly. And from that one investor, feedback started going into groups that that investor was in, that we were in the Northwest, we were legitimate, we were fair, our sourcing fees were fair, we were very, very good at what we did, and we were just decent people to work with. So we got referrals from that. So I always used to say to investors when they came to me on social media, messages, emails, whatever it was, and they would say, "We want to work with you, Tina." And I would say, "That's great, fantastic. However, we're fully booked at this moment in time because we only ever worked with 2 or 3 investors, and the 2 or 3 investors couldn't be looking for exactly the same property because otherwise we'd disappoint 2 of them. So they all had to be looking at different properties for different reasons, and we will work with 2 or 3 because it's time consuming. And when we were fully booked, we were fully booked. So until we completed what one investor was looking for, so for argument's sake, our first investor wanted 8 properties, and then when we'd fulfilled that criteria, we could bring another investor on board. So we had what I called Heathrow Airport above us. We had them flying around us in a holding pattern, waiting to come in and join us. And it was on a first come, first service. We would do some filtration with them so that we knew that we would want to work with them when they were in that filtration method. But that was what we used. This is the very reason why that first year can be really, really hard graft. Really hard graft. And I do get it. But it's in that first year when you put in all of that work that later years it happens almost effortlessly. It really does. Because your knowledge is built up, you know what you're doing, you know your patch, which you should do anyway, you know the strategies that you're sourcing for, you've worked with 2 or 3 investors, you've fulfilled their criteria, you have others wanting to work with you because you've built up that reputation and investors are recommending you. So we built up our reputation, not just investor by investor, but deal by deal. Because when you're working, even with just one investor, you're finding them multiple deals or you're finding them one deal at a time. And that trust in you builds deal by deal by deal. So what you can't undo in any afternoon, what you can't undo is the damage that's done if you screw up and you do something wrong, or you tell lies, or you sell someone something that you know won't work for them, or you don't give a damn as to whether it does. And then you get social media feedback because, let's face it, it goes viral. You can't undo the damage done to your business. But I can tell you that sources who play the long game tend to find the really good investors, or they know very quickly one that they don't want to work with, and it's a thank you, but no thank you. And those leads keep coming to them, and they have them circulating above them in a holding pattern, ready for a space to open up for them to drop down. That is mini compliance this morning. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching if you watch live, or thank you for watching if you're on catch up. I'll be back with you next Tuesday morning, exactly the same time, with another topic just for you. In the meantime, have a great week.